Morning Date. Welcome to another edition of Morning Date, when we get to meet with amazing figures from all walks of life. Well, today I have the absolute privilege of sitting down with Emeritus Professor in the English Department of Sogang University and Chair Professor at Hankuk University, Brother Anthony, also known as Sonjae 교수님, a naturalized Korean citizen. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Could you say hi to our listeners? Could you say hi to our listeners out there today?
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have you here in this studio. And, you know, I think I should probably begin with the poem that I read earlier on. I'm going to have to ask you what you made of my translation of that, because I translated the English to Korean. And was it okay?
Seemed to be very good.
Oh,
yes,
okay, thank you very much.
I think it said what the English said. I think it said it very well.
감사합니다. 앞서서 제가 읽었던 포엠, 번역은 제가 했었는데요. 사실은 번역의 대가, 특히 이제 시의 번역에 있어서 대가이신 선생님 앞에 있다 보니까 제가 참 많이 작아지는 느낌이 듭니다. 물론 선생님께서는 이제 보통 영한이 아니라 이제 한영으로 번역을 많이 하시죠. It's actually really difficult to translate Korean poetry or Korean literature in general into English because of so much of the contextual things that are involved. Why did you choose to do this?
I don't know. I suppose because I'm crazy, but it's always important to translate into your own language, your mother tongue.
Right.
Because that's the language you know. When I translate, I like to have somebody check whether I understood the Korean or not.
Right.
Because Korean is a very difficult language.
When did you start translating Korean literature?
Well, I came to Korea in 1980, and then by chance became professor at Sogang teaching Shakespeare and Chaucer. And so about 1988, I said to another colleague, I said, well, I'm teaching English poetry. I would like to know something about Korean poetry.
I see.
And so she introduced me to the poet Koo Sang, who she knew personally, and she said, oh, he's not too difficult. And he's Catholic, and so that's how I started.
Really?
And then one thing led to another.
And here we are today, of
Oh,
course.
yes.
1980년도에 김수환 추기경의 초청으로 선생님께서는 이제 한국에 오셨습니다. 그에 앞서서 1969년 프랑스 떼제 공동체에서 수사 서원 계셨었고요. 그러고 나서 이제 말씀하신 대로 한 8년간의 기간 동안 한국말도 배우시고 문학에 관심도 이제 가지시면서 서강대학교에서 재직을 하신 이후부터 이제 본격적으로 번역 일을 시작하셨습니다. Well, you have dozens of authors, books, volumes worth of translations under your belt, and pretty much every famous modern Korean poet has had their work translated by yourself, as I understand it. So, what is it about Korean poetry that captivates the reader so much?
I don't know if it really captivates the reader, but I hope so. It has to be its Koreanness, but it also has to be its simple humanity.
Yes.
If it's too Korean because other people don't know what kimchi is or what doenjang is.
Right.
So it can't be too Korean. But at the same time, it has to reflect the Korean experience of life, which is not necessarily the same as, say, an English or American experience of life.
Right. So in that sense, if you were to compare English poetry to Korean poetry, it's the cultural difference then.
Well, it's also historical. You see, there's so much English poetry. Anybody in England who's educated would know Chaucer and Milton and Shakespeare and Wordsworth and so. But in Korea, Korean poetry only really begins, well, just in the Japanese period and Sogang a bit before 1940, but it doesn't have that long history.
Right. Oh, lots of comparisons obviously could be made, but then in and of itself, Korean poetry is very unique. Well, last week we actually had Mr. Darcy Paquette on the show. He translated the movie Parasite from Korean to English, and that movie won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. You know, sometimes if you look at the different types of translations, there's movie translations, literature translations, they also have their own difficulties, you know, the little qualms, you know, you might have to go through. What would you say is the biggest challenge when translating Korean literature into English?
Well, finding the right words. And it's easier than translating subtitles of movies because we're not limited to length or having to match also the tone of people's voices. And he's an expert. And you have to be able to do that very freely, creatively. Whereas I'm feeling strongly that I want to try to say in English what the Korean poet says in Korean, as closely as possible, but as poetically as possible.
Right. Which I think is in some ways even more challenging than movie translations. But
Maybe
that's
it depends how much you like freedom. I'm not sure I
Exactly.
like freedom.
아, 그렇군요. 이제 영화 번역과 굳이 비교를 하자면은 자막 번역은 그 말하는 속도라든지 그 말의 길이를 어느 정도 좀 맞춰줘야 되는 그런 어려움이 있습니다. 그래서 템포 이런 거를 좀 맞춰야 되는 그런 작업이 들어간다면은 시 번역, 문학 번역은 그런 말의 길이에는 제한이 없다 이런 말씀을 하셨어요. 그래서 내용 전달이 제일 중요하고 시의 경우에는 운율도 어느 정도를 좀 맞춰줘야 된다는 그런 어려움은 있다는 말씀이십니다. Well, of all of the things that you've translated, all the different types of literature, which would you say was the most challenging?
I mostly translate poetry, and people say, "Oh, that's so difficult."
Yeah,
I
I
say,
think it
"Well,
would be.
no. The thing about poems is mostly they're short.
Right.
I have done novels, but novels go on and on and on for hundreds of pages, and I find myself getting bored.
아, 시는 이제 짧아서 번역하기가 비교적 쉽다라는 선생님의 의견을 주셨고요. Well, over the past 40 years that you've been here, you've obviously seen the different reactions across the world with your translations of Korean work. How would you say the global audience has changed in terms of their reception?
Well, poetry, like fiction in the West, in the English-speaking world, they've now become much more global, if you like. There's this whole thing called world literature. And there's a whole focus now in the last few years on the need for translation from many, many languages and from many cultures that previously were looked down on or rejected, ignored. And Korea is, of course, one of those areas. You didn't expect poetry from Korea. You expected MASH. And,
MASH.
bad,
I remember that.
Bad news. But so that the discovery of a need in England and the States or Australia for for translations from very unknown languages and cultures is a new phenomenon,
Right.
and it's an expanding one. Because in England and the States until now, the total percentage of translated books, not just literature, translated books each year was 3% of those published?
Korean to English?
No, from
Just-
foreign
Just,
language,
foreign languages. Oh my goodness.
because so many people are writing in English.
Right.
They don't need, or they didn't need, they didn't feel the need to publish translations into English,
Right.
which are often slightly dodgy because they're not really written for the English audience in the way that an English or an American writer is writing in English.
Right. But do you personally feel there is an increased demand for that
There's
now?
much more now.
Much
Much
more
more now. You have thanks partly to the internet, and you have online blogs and world literature today, magazine and Words Without Borders, modern poetry in translation,
Sure.
all sorts of forum where you find people sending in translations from, I say, many, many different languages.
네. 지난 40년 동안 안선재 교수님께서 이제 한국에 계시면서 처음보다 지금은 이제 현저하게 그런 한국 번역물을 원하는 글로벌 오디언스가 늘었다고 생각하신다고 말씀을 해주셨습니다. 그건 어떻게 보면 국제적인 추세도 있고요. 한국뿐만 아니라 전 세계적으로 그전에는 알려지지 않았던 나라의 그런 번역물, 특히 시를 이제 더 많이 찾고 있는 그런 추세도 있고, 그 다음엔 또 이제 어떻게 보면 한국의 인기도 한 몫을 하는 것 같아요. Do you think BTS is helping to get people to be more interested in Korean literature?
Yeah, as I say, then people also now, there's more, especially fiction more than poetry. People are reading more Korean fiction because they're discovering young Korean writers whose work is much more in tune with a global, youthful readership,
Right.
thrillers, psychological mysteries, and strange stuff that
Sure.
modern youth seems to like. Whereas Korean poetry doesn't mostly have anything quite so exotic. It's more deeply rooted in, I say, in Korean experience.
뭐 전혀 무관하다라고 볼 수는 없겠지만 그래도 이제 한류의 영향으로 인해서 국제 오디언스가 지금까지 더 많이 좋아하는 것은 소설이라든지 이런 쪽에 좀 대중문화적인 그런 요소들을 더 많이 찾기는 하지만 그래도 한국의 시를 찾는 해외에 많은 그런 고객이라든지 뭐 사람들이 많이 늘었다라는 말씀이 굉장히 인상적이네요. 40년 동안 이제 지내시면서 정말 많은 거를 겪고 에피소드도 참 많으셨을 것 같습니다. We'll continue our story, our conversation with Emeritus Professor in the English Department of Sogang University and award-winning literary translator extraordinaire 안선재 교수님. We'll be right back after a song. This is Shania Twain, That Don't Impress Me Much. We're back with Morning Date, and today I have 안선재 교수님 with me in the studio, taking us on a trip around literary translation. 네, 교수님은요, 현재 서강대 명예교수이자 단국대 석자교수로 재직 중이시고요. 또 몇 해 전에는 영국의 그 훈장인 MBE도 받으셨습니다. 우리나라에서는 한국 문학상 번역상, 또 대산문학상 번역상 등을 수상하신 경력도 있으십니다. You've lived here, as I said, for many years. Let's go back to the beginning. In 1980, you arrived. And what was it that captivated you, made you stay?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well, take us back to 1980, or, around that time.
Yeah, well, you see, I belong to a community based in France called
Yes.
Community of Thésée. And we were invited by Cardinal Kim, the Archbishop here,
김수환 추기경님.
to
네.
come and be with the young people. This, of course, is a very difficult time. And so we came not knowing really what we would do, and soon realized the first thing was we had to learn Korean. Nobody was speaking English or French. And so we started learning Korean. And then once you've learned Korean, there's no other country in the world where you can use it.
Right.
So that's one reason for staying. And then after a few years, somehow by chance, I became this professor at Sogang University teaching English literature, which was not something I had expected ever to do, but I found myself enjoying it and then getting deeper into Korean life and
Right.
culture and food. And
Do you
the
have a favorite food, Korean food?
Oh, I like everything.
Do you?
Yesterday evening it was 홍어 chim.
Oh my goodness.
Which a lot of
You
people
can't get
don't.
more Korean than that.
No, well, quite, no. So.
네, 1980년에 프랑스 떼제 공동체 수사로서 이제 김수환 추기경의 초청으로 한국에 처음 오셨습니다. 그러면서 이제 우리 말을 배우시고 우리 문화를 좀 배우시면서 사실 그 앞서서 영국에서 옥스퍼드 대학교에서 선생님이 중세 서양 문학 박사학위까지 받으신 바가 있었기 때문에 그런 전공을 살려서 결국은 이제 영문학을 가르치시고 이렇게 번역을 하게 되신 것 같습니다. What have been some of the biggest rewards, would you say, throughout your teaching career?
Well, I was very lucky, of course, having this job in Sogang. The students at Sogang were still are extremely talented, but also humanly speaking, very helpful, encouraging, interested, and right through I was able to introduce them or help introduce them to English, especially British literature, and especially older stuff, well, even Chaucer and history of literature and Shakespeare and John Donne and sometimes going up as far as Jane Austen, not often. But it's been a very rewarding experience to be with the young people like that.
Right. When it comes to translating Korean words, I mean, as you said, you don't have a limitation when it comes to the length of what you're translating, and you do have a bit of freedom, but still, there are certain words that are just, you can't translate them at all in English. And one example I can think of, something I did when I was an undergrad actually, was I translated 님의 침묵 by Han Yong-un, and I just had trouble with 님, the first. How do you translate that? So I personally ended up just writing 님 and then an anecdote of what that meant. How do you go about words like that?
Yeah, well, you don't. I mean, you just have to accept that.
Right.
It doesn't work. There isn't a corresponding word, and whatever it is, there are all sorts of things like that. People think that you can do any word can be word for word translated, and it's not so, because we don't say the same thing at the same time in the same way. And of course, then, if that's one reason why I don't translate novels, because in novels people speak in dialect or with idioms, and the idioms work, and they're funny or they're violent or whatever they are in Korean, but we don't have that idiom in English or anything like it.
Yes. Have you ever been in a situation where you thought, there's no way to translate this?
All the time.
Okay, how do you...
There's no way you can translate anything if you expect it to say the same thing.
Okay.
It has to say something vaguely similar, as similar as possible.
Right.
But in addition, of course, like the great thing in Korean that we don't have anywhere else except in Japanese is chondemal panmal.
Yes.
And that, especially again in fiction, that plays a huge role sometimes. And you can't do it. It doesn't exist.
Right.
There's no equivalent at all.
How do you
Then, well,
translate
you have to add a little remark. He spoke rudely, or patronizingly, or arrogantly. You somehow have to explain by a little word like that. But you can't do anything directly.
맞아요. 시를 번역하다 보면은 정말 많은 경우 직역이 불가능한 그런 글들을 보게 된다고 합니다. 그래서 원문을 그대로 번역하는 것이 불가능한 경우가 워낙 많기 때문에 부연 설명으로 반말이나 존댓말 같은 경우는 이런 느낌의 말이다라고 이제 영어로 설명을 한다든지, 아니면은 어떤 단어가 번역하기 힘들 때는 마찬가지로 그건 그대로 놔두고 그 다음에 옆에 부연 설명, 이것은 이런 의미의, 이런 느낌의 말이다라는 그 설명을 덧붙이신다고 설명해 주셨습니다. Well, this is all very fascinating, and because I did a little bit of translating it during my undergrad studies, this is more so personally for me, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there are vastly interested in, Korean literature and translation.
If you're translating a novel that is set in a hanok, in a Korean house,
Yes.
every part of that Korean house has a Korean name and
That's
no
right.
English equivalent.
Right.
Starting with the Tunmaru and the Maru and the Sarangche,
Sarangche,
the Anche.
Right.
None of this has any equivalent.
So you just leave it as is and then you add an
I
explanation?
don't. That's why I
It
don't.
depends.
I
You
don't
don't do
do
novels. You
I
don't do novels. There you go. 예, 이제 가급적이면
Well, you
소설은
have
좀
to
안
explain
하신다.
it somehow. It depends what the role is. You see,
그렇죠.
how important it is to know exactly what. Sarangche is the men's quarters.
그러네요. 그렇게 설명을 해야 되는 부분이 많아서 소설은 어떻게 보면 이제 부연 설명이 너무 길어지니까 소설을 번역한 적은 있지만 가급적이면 시만 번역을 하신다. 이런 설명을 해주셨습니다. Okay, well, let's take another song break. And when we come back, we'll continue to talk with 안선재 교수님. This is Spice Girls, Two Become One. We're back with Morning Date, and today I have Emeritus Professor in the English Department of Sogang University, Sonjae 교수님, with me in the studio. Now, you've done so many translations in the past. How many, if you could possibly predict, would you like to continue to translate in the future?
Yeah, well, I published 45 volumes of poetry, and I have another 10 or so poetry or fiction waiting to find publishers. And I'm still going on for the moment, translating. What I'm especially translating now is the poetry of Pak No Hae, who was very famous, of course, especially in the 80s and 90s,
Yes.
and as prisoner of conscience and everything. So I'm working on that, and then we'll see. I'm getting old.
It's not an easy question. Well, if you could maybe brag about Korean as a language, why does the world need to learn it?
Because it's so difficult.
That's a reason to learn it.
Of course, everybody now wants to learn it so they can sing K-pop.
That's true.
That's not really quite my thing.
Right.
But, again, I'm my age, but Korean language is very special. Everything is the opposite of what it would be in English. When we translate, every phrase is at the other end of the sentence.
Right, in terms of the order
The
of how you
order
say
of
things.
words
yes.
and phrases.
Yes.
It's a very different language.
Does that change your perspective of just thinking about things or approaching things the way, just because this language makes you think in the opposite way of what you were brought up to?
Yeah, well, I don't think in Korean. I
you
think. My Korean is. I'm not bilingual. There are a lot of people. I mean, you are bilingual, but I'm not.
Okay.
And so it's different. But they always say when you speak a foreign language, you are different.
That's very true.
Whatever
yes.
the language
I
and
couldn't
however
agree
well
more.
you speak it, but especially if you are used to speaking, you develop a personality.
Yes.
So people look at me and say, "You're so Korean."
Do
I
they
said,
now?
"I'm Cornish."
언어를 배우면은 그 문화를 이제 흡수하는 것이 자동적으로 같이 병행이 되기 때문에 안선재 교수님께서는 영어를 이제 모국어로 쓰시지만 많은 사람들이 굉장히 한국적이다라는 말씀을 하신다고 합니다. Well, of course, a lot of people look up to you as an educator. What tips would you like to give to students dreaming of becoming translators?
Well, my tip is you become a translator into your own language.
Right.
A lot of people want, as Koreans, they feel they want to translate Korean literature into English. But that's,
Right,
that's
yes.
horribly difficult. It's a foreign language. You don't have the mastery. Whereas if you are using your own native language,
Right.
you can find the depth and the way of saying it and the poetic way of saying
Right.
it. So don't think you want to become an English translator unless you really are bilingual from a long way back.
네, 번역을 할 때 이제 번역을 하는 원어가 있고요. 그 다음에는 그것이 번역이 되는 target language가 있을 텐데 번역이 되는 언어가 본인의 모국어 수준이어야 된다라는 말씀이십니다. 그러니까 영어 간의 모국어다라고 하면은 한영 번역 얼마든지 좋다. 그런데 한국어, 우리말이 모국어다라고 하면은 한영 번역보다는 영한 번역을 하는 것이 훨씬 좋다라는 말씀이신 것 같습니다. I think that's actually a great tip for people approaching translation because, as you said, people don't have that concept and sometimes they think, I speak a little English, I speak very good Korean, I think I can translate into English, but that's just not the case. All right, very interesting. Well, as a professor, you must project a certain image to your students as well. How would you like to be remembered by your students, or how are you remembered by your past students? Do they, come and tell you that you were this to me, you meant this to me? I know one of our staff members is actually one of your former students.
Yeah, well, of course, you will have to ask them. I'm not sure, but what I
He has
like...
said many fabulous things.
Yeah, what I like is when they say, I remember what you told me about that Shakespeare line or that Shakespeare play or that poem, it made sense and it helped me discover the beauty of it or the meaning of it. Because what you want in literature is not giving people A, B, C, D, F, but helping them to discover the beauty and the meaning of life through literature, and that's what literature is about.
Yes.
Beauty and meaning.
Right.
And you have to internalize that and discover it as also your own way of living. So it's not a qualification for a job, but it's about discovering life in these words or through those words.
지금까지 교수님이 이제 들었던 얘기들 중에서 가장 인상적이고 또 앞으로도 제일 많이 듣고 싶은 얘기는 학생들이 선생님의 설명으로 인해서 제가 이런 감정을 갖게 됐습니다. 이런 느낌을 갖게 됐습니다. 깨달음을 얻었습니다. 라는 것이 굉장히 의미가 있다. 그러니까 단순하게 뭐 초서가 이런 얘기를 했다는 것을 배웠습니다. 이게 아니고요. 셰익스피어의 뭐를 배워서 좋습니다. 이게 아니라 그것을 통해서 내가 내 인생을 돌아보게 됐다. 이런 느낌을 받았다. 내 인생을 내가 뭐 바꾸게 됐다라든지 그런 좀 더 깊은 고차원적인 깨달음을 얻었을 때 어떤 스승으로서 교수님으로서 큰 보람을 느끼신다라는 말씀인 것 같습니다. I think that's going to be a great sort of barometer, if you will, for people to think about when they teach their future students as well. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning.
One word?
Yes, sure.
천상병,
Yes.
his most famous poem, Kwichun,
네.
the end of Kwichun. At the end of my outing to this beautiful world, I'll go back and say that was beautiful. So that's what I want.
Thank you so much. I love that. 네, 마무리로 또 이렇게 귀천의 마지막 소절 번역까지 해주셨습니다. 네, 오늘은요. 안선재 교수님, 또 수사이시기도 하죠. 이렇게 모닝데이트에서 모셔봤습니다. 많은 얘기를 나누면서 저 역시 좀 많은 느낌과 울림이 좀 있는 시간이었어요. 그래서 정말 더욱더 감사하다는 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다. Alright, well that's it for our morning date today. We're going to end things with a song. I'll be back in just a short while. This is Puff Daddy, I'll Be Missing You.